Have you ever wondered why the rich get richer and others don't? Could it be that a small percentage of the population seek out others to find, study, and execute on legal loopholes that exist within our financial life and make it easier for them to prosper? The answer is a resounding yes. This is the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. John has spent a lifetime researching and mastering the financial loopholes that he believes should be available to everyone. Join us as we explore different strategies that help you get farther faster towards building and enjoying a prosperous retirement.
Accumulation versus distribution. There may be a bigger difference here than you realize. But before John Mintz explains that in this episode of his podcast, Secrets of the Wealthy, let's talk the markets. This is one of my favorite parts, John. I'm Patrice Sikora. And has anything happened lately that has you surprised?
I don't know that I'll be saying surprised. It is the 24th of November, the day after Thanksgiving. And let me just start by saying that I'm grateful today. Patrice, you and your team have always done a phenomenal job in helping us produce this show and put it out to the audience and hopefully making a difference in some folks' lives. And so just thank you today for all that you and your team do for us.
Well, thank you. And listen, I thank you for being here and taking the time and the effort to put together some fantastic shows. Great information for listeners.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for saying so. Well, let's get back to the market update. So, the markets had been heading south for quite a while there, and now they've took a turn back into the positive territory here in the last couple of weeks. And, it's anybody's guess as usual if that's going to continue or not. I think folks are relatively positive right now, but the recent market increase is primarily due to, I think they're pricing in. I think the markets are pricing in the thought that the Fed is not going to be raising interest rates at their December 12th and 13th, I think, is when the next meeting is.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so we'll see what happens with that. If they wind up not increasing rates as expected, then we might tread water or stay the course on moving a little bit further north. If they surprise some folks, then we may not like what we see. I think the real key, though, is going to be moving into next year and what happens to inflation. Most folks, I think, still fear that inflation will rise next year. The general consensus is we're going to see 4.25%, 4.5% next year, and we're at the low threes right now. And the one thing that we all want to prevent and not see again is a repeat of the 70s, 80s, where the Fed eased up too quickly on inflation, and then it not only went back to where it was, it got even worse. And so let's just hope that is not the case. I don't think that's the case. And so hopefully we'll see some more positive signs this next year for sure, but we'll stay close to it and try to keep our listeners informed.
Yeah, I was the last 4 weeks. So we squeaked it out this week, but the last 4 weeks have been positive on the markets. You're right, and yet everyone is talking about not necessarily December, although that's kind of squeaky. They're looking forward to the first quarter, and as you said, the Fed could. I heard talk that people are expecting them to cut interest rates. What do you think?
Yeah, if the Fed always did what we expected them to do, this would be a lot easier. My job would be a lot easier.
Good call.
But, we expected the Fed to lower rates much sooner than they did. And so if we're expecting them to, start cutting rates sooner, we might be surprised by that too. But, that is the hope. But hope is not a strategy, as the old saying goes. So
true. So true. All right. Well, let's get into today's topic. This is accumulation versus distribution. Both sound pretty good to me, especially if you're in your younger years, the accumulation, in your older years, of course, distribution, but you're talking about different ways of planning. Tell me about this.
Yeah. And so, this is a conversation that I get into with folks a lot. I don't have time to get into this in my workshops and teaching, but I try to help folks understand the difference from a planning perspective as it relates to the two cycles or the two halves of our lives. The first half being accumulation, which is where we're working, so we're trying to accumulate assets for later when we need them, and then distribution when we start working and the money either has to come out because we need it or the IRS forces it out, or we die, right? And it's going to come out. So yeah, I think of the perils of Mount Everest. Yeah, and I read somewhere the other day that 58% of the majority of the folks that die climbing Mount Everest die on the descent, not on the climb. It's so,
is it just relief?
yeah. And so, I don't know if it's because they just kind of relax or I don't know what happens, but, I think of a retirement death, a financial death in the same thought process that I think a lot of folks get tripped up on the descent because they kind of think, okay, I've made it here, I'm done, and I don't really need to focus on it anymore. I've got enough money. I've got $1 million or whatever it is my goal was, or my advisor told me my goal should be. And so I've got my assets and I'm done. But they fail to realize that is just the beginning of the planning process. So I want to talk today, Patrice, about how financial planners do plan differently. And, I don't know if folks realize that, but and the difference between accumulation planners and how they plan, and distribution planners and how they plan differently. And some people are hybrids, but they're not very many. So does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does, absolutely. And to be honest, I never parsed it in my mind that there were two different approaches. But now that you're talking about it, and I'm thinking, yeah, John, you're right. So
Yeah,
what
go
is
ahead. I'm sorry.
what is an accumulation planner?
Yeah, and so accumulation planners their first priority is accumulation. Obviously, that's the word. But what I mean by that is their whole process and all their systems are built around growth, accumulation, accumulation of assets, and growing those assets is their first priority. So there's very little emphasis, in some cases, no emphasis on tax planning for the future or tax reduction strategies as well. So that's what I refer to as accumulation planners. I've had folks come all the time. They come to the office and they said, well, I've taken this tax problem, and I've taken my concerns about taxes to my advisor 3 times in the last 3 years, and he keeps sweeping it under the rug. And I tell them, I kind of apologize for their advisor. I said, it's not really his fault, because his system is not built around the distribution phase. It's built around the accumulation phase. So he just doesn't have those tools. Now, the distribution planners, on the other hand, are different, right? And yes, they're still focused on growing the assets only because, everybody does, right? But that's not their top priority. Their first priority is the distribution of the assets that we know are going to happen for most folks starting at age 73. We'll get to that later when the government starts forcing the money out. But their major emphasis is on tax planning and tax reduction strategies, because they know that those strategies, for most folks that have a majority of their assets in tax deferred assets, that they can make a much larger difference for them for the better than they can and just getting another 0.25% return on their assets, right?
Well, talk a little bit more about how we know whether someone is an accumulation advisor versus a distribution advisor.
Okay, so I'm going to give some actual examples. So if it's not going to be have you ever, okay, but I don't like that game, but it's going to be something along those lines. So if you've heard this before, then you are with an accumulation focused advisor. And again, I'm not saying that what they do is wrong. I'm just saying that there are certain times of our life that we need one thing, then there's other parts of our life we may need something different. Berkshire Hathaway, pre-pandemic, that stock That's a really popular stock. It's not a cheap stock, that's for sure. And so if you own Berkshire Hathaway before the pandemic hit, all right, let's say you had $100,000 worth of Berkshire Hathaway stock.
That's one share, isn't it? That's one share.
Yeah. Yeah. Or two. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so within 4 weeks of the pandemic hitting, your $100,000 is now worth $58,000. True story.
Oh,
It's really got hammered that quickly. So what do you do? What is your advisor telling you? What's your accumulation advisor telling you at this point? I actually asked this in my teachings, and inevitably every time people that have been in this situation, they answer in the following ways. Oh, we're just going to ride it out. Oh, it always comes back. And they're not really wrong. That is an accumulation focused strategy, right? Just hang on there, ride it out, and come back. But what if there was a different thought process? What if when it went from $100,000 to $58,000, we convert that IRA to a Roth IRA at that moment, and then it rebounds? The same stock rebounds to a record high. Well, what did we pay taxes on, right? We paid taxes on the 58,000. Now it's worth 100 and whatever thousand. And we've just saved ourselves a lot of money, and we didn't do anything different. We're still in the same stock. We just updated the stock, as I like to say. And so here's some other examples when it comes to Roth conversions. And these are things that my clients have told me over the years. They take these Roth, the idea of Roth conversions to their advisor, and they say, oh, you know what? Don't worry about that. You're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. Or they'll say, you know what? Actually, not only should you not do that, you should contribute more to your IRA this year instead, because it's going to lower your tax this year. Or they'll say, that's a good idea. Let me check into it and get back to you.
That's not a very positive answer, that last one.
So no, but the facts are all of those statements are built around the accumulation system. Again, there's not the accumulation system is a great system when your focus is primarily on accumulation, right? But the distribution side of that is much different. The distribution side of that says, I'm going to look at my taxes and what they're going to be over my lifetime versus this year. And my goal is to lower my taxes overall in my lifetime. And I'll talk to that here in a minute as to, just an example of how we can do that. But yes, we can make a significant difference on the distribution side by looking at taxes that we're going to pay beginning at worst case scenario at age 73. And that's when the required minimum distributions start. And if you haven't listened to us on previous shows, that means that the IRS at a certain age, and depending on when you're born, it may be a different year. But for most folks that are retiring or getting close to retiring right now, that age is going to be 73, which means that if you have $1 million in your IRA or 401k or tax deferred accounts, their IRS is going to force about 40,000, give or take, out of that account beginning at 73, and it's just going to get bigger every year. So if you add those taxes up over your lifetime, depending on how long you're going to live, that's going to be a really big number.
Yeah.
And so the goal should be, you should have some sort of plan. And I emphasize almost every show anymore that you need a plan for whatever it is that you're doing. If you want to succeed, you need a plan, right? Even if it's just to lose a few pounds after Thanksgiving. So you still need a plan. And hope is not a plan, and hope is not a strategy, as we said. Anyway, if you've heard these types of things, on either side, which type of advisor that you're speaking with, and you just need to make sure that you're matching up with an advisor that fits where you are in your retirement or pre-retirement path.
John, why don't people do both?
Why don't they do both?
Yeah, why don't they? Look at both sides of the coin, so to speak.
So the answer is that's a really, really interesting way to look at it. So what you're asking, give me an example of what you're asking. So are you saying, for example, John, how do I lower my taxes this year and lower them overall? Is that what you're saying?
That I'm saying it from the advisor's point of view. Why aren't advisors saying, well, this is how we can build your assets, but we have to take these taxes into consideration or the future into consideration?
Well, of course they can. I thought I misunderstood you thinking, well, I want to lower my taxes this year and overall.
Well, I do too. That's why not?
But I tell people all the time, we're not going to avoid taxes, right? We can't avoid taxes.
And I don't mind paying my fair share of taxes. I do not.
Yeah, we just want to, and we don't even mind paying our fair share. We just don't want to pay more than our fair share.
Exactly.
And so, but sure, of course, we tell folks, listen, we're going to get a nice return on your assets. That's not the point here. That we can do a nice return. We can have a balanced portfolio. We can make sure we avoid market losses that's going to destroy your retirement. We can do all of that for sure. But what we don't want to do is not think about and not plan on things that are going to happen during the distribution phase that did not happen during the accumulation phase.
Exactly.
That's the point. And so we have to change our plan slightly or add to it, which is kind of your point maybe. We need to add to the plan that has been working successfully. But here's another difference between accumulation advisors and not. Okay. Accumulation advisors mostly have the vast majority of folks in unprotected assets, Mark, that can lose value. Oh, no, John, I have a 60%. I'm 60% in stocks and I'm 40% in bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait a minute. But can bonds lose money? Yeah, they lost 13% last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, do they have a nice blend of protected versus unprotected assets? Most people, in my experience, are retired. That is not the case. And so, again, it's just looking at things from a different viewpoint to say, am I prepared for the next 30 years differently than I was the last 30 years? Because it is going to be different, including the doctors that we see. Those are going to be different too. So, right? Anyway, let's talk about the differences in the non-qualified side. So I was talking that in that previous discussion, we were talking about pre-tax stuff. Now let's talk about post-tax stuff. And this is stuff not in a Roth IRA, but things that are maybe in a CD or a money market account or a brokerage account. And we've already paid the taxes on the money we put in, but now we have to pay taxes on the growth of that asset. So again, the accumulation advisors, to a great degree, they have a set it and forget it. Now, this is not a carte blanche statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they have a set it and forget it strategy for the most part. Meaning, we're going to put you in these stocks, or we're going to put you in these funds, and they're going to perform over time, and we're going to just leave it there. And the truth is, again, that doesn't mean that those accounts are not going to grow. In fact, I have clients come to me, and the problem is they've grown a lot.
Yes.
But now we have this problem with this thing called capital gains,
mm-hmm.
right? And so because they have not managed the capital gains along the way in the years where I was just discussing earlier with the Berkshire Hathaway stock, where, it had gone down significantly, that could have been an opportunity to update the cost basis on that. But, we believe in the distribution phase that we need to be managing those portfolios as well through what we refer to as tax managed portfolios. And we've proven that we can reduce the taxation on an ongoing basis in multiple different ways using actually tax managed portfolios. And there's 6 different ways that we're going to do this. And I don't have time for this on the show today. In fact, I've decided I'm going to use our next show to kind of get into that a little bit. But, there are several basic principles for reducing the impact of U.S., federal taxes on equity investments, just like mutual funds. And one of those, a lot of people are aware of, is harvesting losses. It's the term.
Mm-hmm.
But there's many different ways that these gains can be managed to where you can reduce the taxation as much as 90%. really that much
That's incredible.
on an ongoing basis. So we'll get into that next time and talk more about that. But if these are just some ideas, just a few ideas of ways you might be able to just understand the difference between pre-retirement planning and or accumulation working phase, and then the pre-retirement retirement phase, and how they do need to be managed differently in some ways.
Okay. John, you mentioned RMDs earlier. How can you deal with those and taxes?
Oh, wow. I said I didn't have much time today, remember? So
Sorry.
I don't know. We'll try to finish the show with this one, I guess. But, RMDs are kind of they're really a misunderstood beast in a lot of ways. I want to give you an example. I had a single lady come in to see us recently. She's 55. And so she's trying to do advanced planning, which is great. Advanced distribution planning, which is great. And she had about $1 million. And we projected her RMDs out over time if she was to live, because she had longevity in her family. She wanted me to plan out to age 100.
Mhm.
And so her projected RMDs, based on just a 5% growth rate, would be $2.7 million.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So the number, people don't realize compounding works for you and against you at the same time, right? Unless it's managed. Compounding meaning if she's got $1 million, but at 5%, that's going to grow significantly over 45 years. And so she's going to have to pay the piper over all those years, 73 to 100. That's 2.7 million coming out. But if we take and reallocate the harm that could be damage and the damage that could be inflicted based on the taxes, if we move those out of the taxable accounts and into a tax-free account over time, I just did it over 7 years, just doing a little bit a year over 7 years, then we could reduce her RMDs, get this, from 2.7 million down to $200,000 in total.
There's a lot of zeros involved there, John.
Yeah. So I told you I didn't have that much time, but so her highest RMD in 1 year before the planning would have been a little over $131,000 that was forced out in 1 year. Now, remember, she only started with $1 million, right? But those ramp up over time. And then after the planning, her highest 1 year RMD was a little over 13,000 in 1 year. So what does that do? Well, it has a major impact on everything, right? If we keep those RMDs low, which means we keep her income low, maybe it doesn't negatively impact her Medicare charges. Maybe it doesn't impact the tax on their Social Security. Definitely impacts her taxes because we cut her projected lifetime tax from 1.8 million down to 1.2. That, I think I want to leave folks with that thought. And like I said, we'll break this down more next time, but we're talking $600,000 in tax savings on this one single lady and $2.5 million in reduction of RMDs just from a little bit of planning.
That's considerable. It's amazing what planning can do, huh?
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
All right. Now, on the notes here, I know you had a story about an eye doctor.
Yeah, I think I'm going to save that for next time. No, let's go. Okay, now we teased the audience, so I'm going to go ahead and tell the story.
Okay.
This is the best way I think I could explain the difference between what we've had and maybe what we need and how that changes. I started going to an eye doctor about 11 years ago, and I still see him. My wife just saw him recently, and I go into him every year, and he'd do the eye test to try to make sure that my vision was corrected at 20/20, and he'd give me the reading glasses, and he'd give me the distance glasses, and I got a lot of glasses, by the way, over the years. But anyway, long story short, last year when I went in to see him, he said, "Okay, John, test is over. This is what it's going to look like." I said, "Well, no, I think your test is off. I don't think we got it right this time." He said, "Well, John, I'm sorry. That's as much as I can correct you." So now I'm thinking, boy, this is the way it's going to be, right? So for the rest of my life, I'm just not going to see as well. then I was telling this story to one of my clients, and my client said, "Oh, John, I've got the guy for you. You got to go see this guy." And I said, "I've got, so I'm skeptical, right?" So anyway, long story short, I go see the guy, and he says he can't help me, but he sends me to another guy, a specialist, we'll call it, an optometrist, not an optometrist, but
Ophthalmologist.
ophthalmologist. Thank you. Anyway, long story short, he has this very expensive, very unique machine that measures the exact shape of your eyes because they're not a perfect sphere, right? And so in doing so, he sends these measurements off to the Netherlands, has these very custom built contacts made that come back and they cover the entire retina. And I put these things in my eyes and I felt like my vision went back 20 years.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And so it's really quite a story. Every time I tell the story, it says, I need that doctor's name. But
Yes.
the point of it is this, that my guy was my guy, right?
Yeah.
For over 10 years. And he's still a very good friend and lives right here in my hometown here.
Mhm.
But he got to a point where my life was changing and he just didn't have the tools to help me with what I needed. And so, but he was great for when I needed him. So that's kind of what I say about the difference between the two phases in financial planning, that there's nothing wrong with what you've done or your person has done to this point. But now the game is changing. So you may need a different game plan than you've had before. And you might have to go to somebody else or sit down with someone else just to get different strategies that's going to help you through the second half. Hope that helps some folks. And if we've helped one person today, then it's worth it.
That story illustrates a lot, John. That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, how can people reach you if they've got questions? And I'm sure there will be some.
Well, our direct number is 817-225-6260. There's always someone answering the phone during normal hours. And if you'd prefer to go directly to our site, we've just did a grand opening on a brand new website. So we encourage people to go check it out. It's www.biltmore, biltmore-financial.com.
Fantastic. Now, I am looking forward to the next discussion. We're going to do reducing taxes on equity investments to start. Is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And listeners, of course, like, follow, subscribe to this podcast, and of course, share with others. Show them how much you know now, okay? And thanks for being with us.
Thank you for listening to the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of John Mintz. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.